Coming up on Point News, what is Pittsburgh doing as a sanctuary city to help refugees?
And what is Point Park doing to further the Me Too campaign that has been spreading through our nation?
And of course, with all of the hectic weather in Pittsburgh this week, what can you expect in this weekend's forecast? All this and more when Point Park News returns.
Live from the Point Park University Broadcast Center in downtown Pittsburgh, this is Point News.
Good afternoon, I'm Julie Gernick.
And I'm Jordan Slobodinsky.
Let's dive right into our top story of this week. Pittsburgh's social justice weekend just occurred, and Point News reporter Nicole Paximos has this story.
Social justice has been a global issue for multiple years, but we are here today at the Social Justice Innovation Weekend, where the city of Pittsburgh is coming together to try and figure out different ways to fix the worldwide issue. Folks from across Pittsburgh joined together this weekend to help make a change in our communities. These groups are getting together for the entire weekend to brainstorm some different ideas to help make a change.
The general concept of the event is to give makers, creators, innovators a chance to use their skills and talents for social good.
Refugees specifically have a bigger issue than others when it comes to social justice. But once a refugee is vetted and cleared to enter the United States, the U.S. Department of State works with Federal Office of Refugee Resettlement and local nonprofits designated as voluntary resettlement organizations.
So I'm the Deputy Chief of Neighborhood Empowerment for the Office of Mayor Bill Peduto. And in that, I work on a lot of issues around equity, opportunity, and quality of life.
According to PA Penn Live, Governor Wolf said his top concern is keeping Pennsylvania safe and believes that can be done while following federal mandates and accepting immigrants and refugees.
So in my work with Welcoming Pittsburgh, which is the work of the Peduto administration around immigrant and refugee populations, we see a host of issues. We see isolation, one, just because of differences and moving in the neighborhoods and into areas where people may not know each other and may isolate for various, in clear reasons. Language access is a huge barrier. We're working on language access for 311 now, because we know that people need to be able to call in various languages. Also, a multicultural liaison unit with the Pittsburgh Police Department, acknowledging that, again, folks are speaking various languages and are coming from different experiences, and how can the city do its best to be welcoming and understand who people are so that they can get the proper services.
Pittsburgh is considered a sanctuary city, which means it limits its cooperation with the national government to enforce immigration laws. On average, it costs about $15,000 to help settle a refugee.
There are populations in the city who are used to the status quo, and we're in a dynamic global economy, and the world is changing and cities are changing, and some people aren't as used to change as others.
According to PA Penn Live, refugee resettlement is driven by the Federal Refugee Act of 1980, which grants the president authority to admit refugees who face persecution because of their race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a certain social group. That act also created the Federal Refugee Resettlement Program, a federally funded program that aims to resettle refugees and teach them how to be self-sufficient. By the end of the weekend here, they are hoping to be able to solve these issues and make a change in our communities. Reporting from the Social Justice Innovation Weekend here in East Liberty, I'm Nicole Paxinos for Point News.
Another hot topic across the nation is sexual assault. Point News reporter Jess Paterchak found out what Point Park's Title IX coordinator had to say about it.
With the hashtag #MeToo currently going viral on social media, sexual assault awareness is very prevalent today. Now, according to the National Resource for Sexual Violence, 1 in 5 women will be raped during their time in college. Now, during this program, we will turn to multiple resources to figure out what action one should take if this should be you.
We need to really focus on what survival is, right? Being a survivor is a title, but survival is a whole other ball of wax, right? And so I think if we're going to collect stories, it should be the stories that to let people know that it's normal to feel this way. This is a thing that's going to happen in your healing journey. That's okay.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, in the broadest sense, across multiple campuses, there has been a rise in reporting. And while I think some people would view that as a negative thing, I feel quite the opposite about it, because I think, as you've said, it happens so often. But the reality is that it's not being reported. So when people look at the report numbers and they say, oh, look how low these are great, not necessarily. That means to me that there are people out there suffering in silence. And so the fact that people are feeling more comfortable coming forward and saying, this happened to me, what can I do about it, I think says a lot about the climate and the way the landscape is kind of shifting.
Lib Rosenmeyer, who's the coordinator for Title IX here at Point Park University, speaks with resident educators, faculty, and students regularly about sexual assault awareness and what to do in these kinds of situations. Point Park University's Title IX department heavily works with Pittsburgh Action Against Rape to assist sexual assault survivors.
So the first thing we'll do when we hear about somebody is make sure that they feel safe. That might mean an immediate response by police, or it might mean that I reach out to them by email the next day. Depends on the severity of what the report is. So once we reach out to the student, we find out if they're safe, are there any protections we need to put in place, then we have a discussion with them about, do they want to have an investigation? Is there somebody on our campus that they want to hold accountable for their behavior? And at that point, if the answer is yes, then we will have an investigation. We have people who are staff members at Point Park who are trained in investigating without victim blaming, they're trauma informed, and do essentially a determination of whether the university's policy was violated or not. If it was, then the person who's responsible for the behavior will have sanctions or discipline given to them. And then if there are what we call remedies that the person who experienced the behavior needs to continue their education, then we'll put those into place.
According to an organization called RAIN, more than 72% of campus law enforcement agencies have a staff member responsible for survivor response and assistance.
So we know from the climate survey the university did last fall is that of those people who responded to the survey, 87% told friends and family, but only 7% told the university. So those are similar statistics. We know that students are more likely to let us know about something if it happens off campus and involves a non-Point Park student. If it happens on campus with another student, they are less likely to tell us. So that's part of our conversations we're starting to have more of now with students is, what are those dynamics that make it more of a challenge to report something? And how can we create an atmosphere where even if you don't want to go through an investigation, you can still come to us and get that support and remedies.
Now, according to the National Resource for Sexual Assault, more than 90% of sexual assault victims do not report these cases. Organizations and departments such as Title IX and Pittsburgh Action Against Rape give these survivors options. Reporting in downtown Pittsburgh, this is Jess Paterchak for Point News.
As February comes to an end, Black History Month is also wrapping up. Reporter Katie Kelly has a story on how Pittsburgh is celebrating Black history.
City County Building hosted a Black History Month event on February 5th. The event celebrated the grassroots of past, present, and future African American conservationists in and around the city of Pittsburgh.
According to Merriam-Webster, a conservationist is someone who works to protect animals, plants, and natural resources. This exhibit focuses on the human aspect of it.
About preserving African Americans in conservation, it's about explaining not just the importance of preserving our environmental realm or physical realm, but also the cultural heritage as well as the cultural identities and what it means African Americans to be in the United States and migrating, which is based on our enslavement to this country from the south up to the north and over to the west.
The theme of the event changes every year, but the importance of who is being honored doesn't.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to the 4 people that were honored tonight, each has made an impact in and around their communities. But what makes these people so different?
Because what we're doing in our local, it cannot die. It has to live on. But we're out there and the public can see. They see what's happening. That's great. So it's not a hidden process. It's an open process, and then if we can make improvements as we go, make things better.
The director of the program, Jay Carter, searches all over Pittsburgh to find locals who have dedicated their talents and skills to preserving and protecting their heritages and cultural identities through public services, art, music, and science.
Many of these people collectively have spent over 100 years preserving and protecting our environment. And so I just felt I'm part of this next millennial generation, and so it's my job to make sure that I carry on that legacy.
African Americans in Conservation exhibit is open the entire month of February. From the City County building, I'm Katie Kelly reporting for Point News.
In other news, President Donald Trump's rally at Ambridge Area High School has been postponed. Trump's campaign says the decision is out of respect and sympathy for the victims and survivors of the high school mass shooting in Parkland, Florida. The event was rescheduled to take place at 7 p.m. on February 21st in Ambridge Area High School's District Right Fieldhouse. According to Trump's campaign, the president planned to discuss the economy and recent tax cuts. According to the press release, a new date for the rally in Ambridge will be announced in the near future.
So we definitely had a little sneak preview of spring weather this week, but let's check in with our reporter Tassé Harmon for what today's forecast has in store.
Thank you, Julie. Like Julie said, we had a pretty much like a sneak preview of the spring on Tuesday and Wednesday, but that's not going to be the case for today. As you see, we have a high of 44. We have a low of 38. It's pretty much like not a change, but make sure you have your rain boots, you have your raincoats. It's very, very rainy out there, but just stay tuned for the 3-day forecast. Back to you, Julie.
Coming up on Point News, how are Point Park photo students fundraising for an upcoming trip?
And find out all you need to know about the United Student Government elections.
All that and more when Point News returns.
If I was you, I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me too. If I was you, I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me too. If I was you, I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be.
Spending just 7 minutes climbing stairs each day cuts your risk of a heart attack in half over 10 years. Sure, elevators are convenient, but you burn twice the number of calories just going upstairs than you do while jogging. Think about how long you spend waiting for elevators. The average person spends the equivalent of 2 years waiting for elevators over the course of their lifetime. Don't let that be you. Save time and increase energy. Next time, take the stairs.
Let's go.
Five, four,
three.
Sideline! Welcome back to Point News. On Monday, a new congressional map was drawn for Pennsylvania. The newly drawn map places Pittsburgh in the 18th district, where it was formerly in the 14th district. With a new congressional map drawn, this will allow for political representation to be more easily recognized for citizens. The former congressional map was drawn in 2010 by the Republican, was founded unconstitutional by Pennsylvania justices.
Just this week, Point Park's United Student Government declared 15 clubs or organizations inactive, and now applications for United Student Government are open to the student body. The annual election will be held in March for president, vice president, and senators. USG Press Secretary Josh Krupp said that USG is looking forward to the event and welcomes any student to apply for the position.
Point Park Photography Collective is headed to the Society for Photographic Education's 2018 annual conference in Philadelphia this March. But first, the club held a headshot fundraiser to help with the trip expenses. Last Thursday, the club held $25 headshot sessions. The sessions included same-day turnaround for portrait-quality headshots. Students and faculty who took advantage of the fundraiser received one 8x10 print, digital files, and additional prints for an additional charge.
We had the pleasure and leisure of going this year, and so 12 of us are going to be going and just meeting really wonderful artists and showing our work and getting reviews and critiques back on our work.
SPE conference, that the students fundraise for is an annual event hosted by the University of the Arts in downtown Philadelphia. This year's theme is Uncertain Times, Borders, Refuge, Community, and Nationhood. The students attending will submit pieces for review in addition to enjoying the convention. By the end of their 8-hour fundraiser, the Photo Collective raised over $225 towards their trip. This includes fees to the event and other activities that will enrich their experience. The club also confirmed that similar fundraisers will be happening again in the near future.
Still to come on Point News, we have your weekend forecast and a Winter Olympics update. Stay tuned.
You'll ever do.
What's one word to describe CAB?
Welcoming.
Community.
Creative.
Experiences.
Family. Openness.
Pineapple.
The Campus Activities Board is a student-run organization that consists of 7 different committees. Each focuses on event planning, marketing, and administrative activities. Join us in organizing the juiciest events on campus, from late-night bingo to festive dances to our team bonding meetings. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Point Park Cap, or like us on Facebook at Campus Activities Board at Point Park University.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Josh Troop alongside Jess Paterchak.
Defending his decision to kick out 15 Cuban diplomats from the United States.
Thanks, Allison. Fitness on Demand has returned to Point Park.
Residents fear that Mount Agung will have a repeat of 1963's eruption.
2-star NFL quarterbacks made the headlines this week after wrapping up.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That's your news tonight. For Nick Tomarello, I'm Alex Grubbs. Have a great night.
Welcome back to Point News. The 2018 Winter Olympics are set to wrap up on the 25th in Pyeongchang, South Korea. The U.S. is still lagging behind in the medal count, sitting in 4th place with 8 gold, 7 silver, 6 bronze. And Norway is leading the way with 13 gold, 11 silver, and 9 bronze. Having 6 total gold medals, 4 of them came from the U.S.'s snowboarders. Chloe Kim and Jamie Anderson in the women's halfpipe, Red Gerard in the men's slopestyle, and Sean White in the men's halfpipe. This breaking yet another record for White. He is now the only man to win 3 gold medals in the same event. One of the other golds came from Michaela Schifrin in the women's giant slalom event. Additionally, though he has yet to medal, USA fan favorite figure skater Adam Rippon declined the offer to be an NBC correspondent. Rippon confirmed via Twitter that although he was honored to be offered the position, he would have to move out of Olympic Village, but he wants to remain and support his friends and teammates.
Now to this. In the wake of inclement weather in the area, Pittsburgh and Point Park were subject to damage this past week. Point State Park was flooded, the wharf flooded, and 2 buildings on campus were affected by water damage this week. Thayer Hall and West Penn's basement both flooded. However, there was no major damage to those buildings. With all this talk of flooding, let's find out if we can expect any precipitation this weekend with Tassay. What's in store for Pittsburgh?
Thanks, Jordan. So as you know, today it's wet, it's rainy. On Friday, it's going to be a high of 62, a low of 46, but that precipitation is going to be following out throughout the weekend. On Saturday, you have high of 52, goes down 2 degrees to a low of 50. You still need to make sure that you have an umbrella, you have a raincoat, you have your rain boots. You want to just make sure that you're bundled up because this is the sick weather. And then here you have Sunday, it's a high of 61, a low of 37, and the precipitation is still pretty high of 80%, but just make sure that you're just bundled up and you stay dry this weekend. Back to you at the desk.
That does it for this week's Point News. Be sure to join us next Thursday live at 2 p.m.
Have a great weekend, everybody.